Hi everyone, this is Sukanta Priya, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, Dr. SNS Rajalakshmi College of Arts and Science. This presentation is about mapping constraint. A mapping constraint is a data constraint that expresses a number of entities to which another entity can be related with the help of a relationship set. It is most useful in describing the relationship set that involve more than two entity set. For a binary relationship set R on an entity set A and B, there are four possible mapping cardinalities, which includes 1 to 1, 1 to many, many to 1, and many to many. Mapping constraint types. In 1-to-1 mapping, an entity in E1 is associated with at most one entity in E2, and an entity in E2 is associated with at most one entity in E1 is called as 1-to-1 mapping. In 1-to-many mapping, an entity in E1 is associated with any number of entities in E2, and an entity in E2 is associated with at most one entity in E1 is called as 1-to-many mapping. In many-to-one mapping, an entity in E1 is associated with at most one entity in E2, and an entity in E2 is associated with any number of entities in E1 is called as many-to-one mapping. In many-to-many mapping, an entity in E1 is associated with any number of entities in E2, and an entity in E2 is associated with any number of entities in E1 is called as many-to-many mapping. Keys. A key plays a vital role in a relational database. It is used to uniquely identify any record or a row of data from a particular table in a database, and also it is used to establish and identify the relationship between the tables. For example, in the student table, we have attributes like ID, name, address, and course. ID is used as a key because it is unique for each student. In the person table, we have attributes like name, date of birth, passport number, license number, and SSN number. The passport number, license number, and SSN are the keys since they are unique for each person. Types of key, which includes primary key, candidate key, super key, and foreign key. Primary key, it is the first key which is used to identify one and only instance of an entity uniquely. An entity can contain multiple keys, as we saw in the person table. The key which is most suitable from the lowest list becomes a primary key. In an employee table, ID can be a primary key since it is unique for each employee. In an employee table, we can select license number and passport number as a primary key since they are also unique. For each entity, the selection of the primary key is based on the requirement and the developers. Candidate key. A candidate key is an attribute or a set of attributes which can uniquely identify a tuple in a database. The remaining attributes, except for a primary key, are considered as candidate key. The candidate keys are also considered as the strong primary key. For example, in the employee table, we have attributes like employee ID, employee name, employee address, passport number, license number, and SSN number. ID is best suited for the primary key. Rest of the attributes like SSN, passport number, and license number, etc. are considered as a candidate key. Super key. A super key is a set of attributes which can uniquely identify a tuple. Superset is a superset of a candidate key. Say for example, in the above employee table, for employee ID and employee name, the name of two employees can be the same, but their employee ID cannot be the same. Hence, this combination can also be taken as a key. The super key would be employee ID followed by the employee name, etc. Foreign key. Foreign keys are the column of the table which is used to point out the primary key of another table. In a company, every employee works in a specific department, and the employee and the department are the two different entities. So we cannot store the information of the department in the employee table. That's why we link these two tables through the primary key of one table. We add the primary key of a department table, department ID as a new attribute in the employee table. Now in the employee table, department ID is a foreign key and both the tables are related with each other. Here we have two different tables like employee table and department table. In the employee table we have attributes like employee ID, employee name, passport number, license number and SSN number. In the department table we have attributes like department ID and the department name. In the employee table, employee ID is a primary key, and in the department table, department ID is a primary key. When one primary key is referenced in another table, it becomes a foreign key. In this case, the department ID becomes a foreign key in the employee table. Thank you.